Looking back on this spring turkey hunting season, we had quite the ride. A lot of ups and downs, not a ton of encounters, but it was quite the ride. So here's a little recap of our spring 2022 turkey hunting season.
Yes. Let's go, dude.
Most turkey hunters, well, I guess most hunters love gear. And one of the pieces of gear I added to my kit this year was a red dot sight. I shot my first turkey with one, and I guess from that point on, I knew that I had to have one. So this year I added one to my shotgun. I have a dedicated turkey shotgun now, believe it or not. So going into the season, I went up and sighted that red dot in and got that just as dialed as I could get it. The target I was using, actually I was shooting target loads into it, and then I switched over to a turkey load to do the final check. Yeah, on that shot, the target just exploded. So had to get the red dot all sighted in and good to go. So this season wasn't necessarily about shooting a bunch of turkeys. It was more about, exposing some new hunters to the woods. And Sean loves the outdoors, but he's never been hunting before. So I figured this would be a great opportunity to, take him out, get him in the woods, kind of show him what it's all about. Being as we're in Minnesota, the weather was pretty gnarly going into the kind of earlier part of the season.
So crazy.
We had some really cold temps and snow, which did not help the hunting, obviously. Yeah, on our first hunt, it was a tough hunt. We heard a couple gobbles, but I don't know. We just couldn't connect, but I think Sean got some good exposure to kind of the turkey woods and just kind of seeing a little bit about what it's like. Sean ended up getting sick, so we had to bail on the next 2 days that we had planned, which was a bummer, but it is what it is. So my only hope was that he'd gotten enough of a taste of it to want to try it again. I think this marked Ryan and I's 7th or 8th turkey hunt together, and he must not think I'm bad luck because we have yet to get one together, but Ryan likes to chase turkeys with the bow and arrow, so that's kind of a whole nother game. I don't know, it's just different than shotgun hunting, obviously. Bow hunting, you get a much longer season, you get the full season, and you aren't restricted by periods. But on the flip side, it's a lot harder to target them with a bow just because you have more of a limited range potentially. You can't shoot through brush as well, and you have to be very hidden when you draw back because that kind of motion, turkeys can see that really easily. So one of the hunts we did, we hiked up way up on this ridge, got up on this field, set up for a little bit. I don't know, we were set up for not that long, 20 minutes maybe. Just calling here and there, and then we hear a gobble, so we're like, okay, cool, we're in it. It was definitely up on the top of the field, way to our right.
Close, yeah. Two of them come. They're out in the field, right on the stubble edge.
5 minutes later, these two jakes came running in, and I just it was just hilarious. I don't know, something about turkeys running is just really funny to me, but Ryan was kind of I don't know about a jake. So we ended up passing on those birds and just kind of kept at it that day. Did a ton of hiking. That was a new piece we'd been on, so we learned a ton about that piece, but unfortunately we didn't run into any more gobblers, so.
The last week has been just absolutely crappy, rain, high winds, just not ideal conditions at all. And then tomorrow it's supposed to be lower winds and actually sunny. So it seems worth trying to chase them, at least as far as the weather goes. So I've got a little bit of time to work with, so we'll see if we can make it happen.
No way.
Roosted a bird, and then I spent 2 days chasing that bird. I was in the birds pretty thick, but I just couldn't, connect with one. I think a lot of the birds I heard on those 2 outings were with hens. So yes, I heard a lot of gobbling, but I just didn't have any luck getting them in. In Minnesota, when you buy a turkey license, you get your period to hunt, which is 7 days. If you're not successful during that chosen period, you get to hunt the last period in Minnesota, which is basically the last half of May, if you have an unfilled tag. So after not having luck those 2 days of hunting, I was a bit bummed, but I knew that I'd have another shot at chasing them later in the season.
What you do? Let's go. Buy this. Buy this.
So this spot that Ryan and I hunted this morning it's a super urban spot, and I don't think it gets a whole lot of pressure, and there's a bunch of birds on it.
Here he is, Tom.
We had a couple close encounters here. This one skirted us on the other side of a berm, like right in front of us, which was a bummer, because if the bird had come up on the berm, we would have had a great shot, but...
That's about right.
Had some close encounters, and then we had this crazy front roll through. All of a sudden it was like dumping rain, and the wind was blowing. Had to stake the blind down, which while Ryan was staking the blind down, a bird actually came in from the side that we couldn't see.
God damn it, this place is just ridiculous.
So that was just one of those bad timing deals. But yeah, a couple close calls, but still couldn't quite seal the deal. Work was calling, so I had to put my turkey season on hold for a minute and fly up to Saskatchewan to go do some snow goose hunting with Final Approach and Sask Goose Company. We had a great time in Canada.
We got 60 back.
Bunch of snow geese died, but it was back to Minnesota to actually get my bags packed and go try my luck in Wisconsin. Another one of my goals this season was to harvest a bird in Wisconsin. I actually have a connection over there with someone who was gonna let me camp on their land in an area that looked really good. My plan going into this trip was to run and gun, try to strike birds, roost birds, and then just, move quickly and cover a lot of ground. I didn't have any spots or areas that, people had recommended to me. And that's how I wanted it to be. I wanted to make this a challenge for myself and try to figure it out from the ground up, having never hunted there before. I hopped around to a couple different spots that were, public pieces along creeks or rivers that had some texture to them. Covered a bunch of ground, didn't find much sign. So I was pretty discouraged. Well, I'm getting my butt kicked. Like I said, this is my first time ever hunting this area, so I don't really know a whole lot about, bird concentrations and good spots, and I don't know. Going into the third day of that trip, I started to feel really sick. And I was pretty beat down from not finding any sign, doing a ton of hiking. So I decided to bail, head home. It was like a 3-hour drive, so not too far. Took a COVID test and tested positive for COVID, so that was a pretty big bummer. I was really looking forward to that trip, and it ended up being a lot harder than I was expecting. I guess it was a success in the sense of learning, but it was not a success in terms of harvesting a bird. So wasn't able to fill my Wisconsin tag this season. I'll probably be back next year, giving it another go. We were approaching the second half of May, so my tag would be valid again in Minnesota. And then also my brother-in-law, who's 15, he was really itching to get out turkey hunting. So I did a little scouting and ended up finding a pretty good area with a lot of birds in it. So I convinced him to get up at 4 a.m. and give the turkey hunting game a try with me. We were around birds, and I think he had a great time. Unfortunately, we couldn't connect, but that's turkey hunting. It's up to him if he wants to try it again or not, but I think he had a great time. He got to hear a lot of gobbling, so I think he was pretty fired up about that. We did do a fair bit of hiking, so that might not have been his favorite, but I know he had a fun time, so hopefully next year we can call one in and I can help him take his first bird next year. But I just couldn't stand being around that many birds and not getting one. So I felt really confident in that spot. So I'd spent the next 2 days hunting there. The first day was, a lot of hiking and the birds were more quiet that morning. I did run into some gobbles, but I just had a hard time getting them to cooperate. My approach there was calling them up to me. I was kind of up on the higher point, on more of an open meadow area, and all the birds had kind of tucked down over the edge of that top. And I don't know if they were just on benches or what, but they were moving down in those woods. I just couldn't, approach them with how the terrain was very easily. So I would do setups with the decoy and just like chill, kind of just try to be invisible on that top. So yeah, first day, heard a bunch of birds. I had a coyote. I wish I got it on camera. This coyote came in and he must have smelled me, but he didn't see me, and he ran literally 10 feet to my right, just booked it past me and went flying into the woods. Craziest thing ever. Thought about shooting him, but I was around a bunch of birds, so I was like, I'd rather, not blow my cover, so. Hopefully that does the trick. All right, day 3 at this spot. Just shaved my mustache last night. I was kind of under the impression that was giving me bad luck, so I shaved it. So I'm actually gonna take this longboard down the trail here and go check out another chunk next to it. I could walk, but figured I might as well board, just make it a little quicker. So this might be my last day to turkey hunt this season. So it's been a grind. It's been fun, but hopefully we get one. I don't know. The next morning, I tried a slightly different spot that was kind of adjacent to where I'd been hunting. So I figured, there'd be a lot of birds around that area. Hiked way up this ridge. The cover was on the maps, it looked really like it was gonna be open and flat and grassy, but there was a ton of terrain to it. In this later part of the season, I was starting to see a lot of birds. It seemed like they were turkeys are always moving, right? They're always on the move. But it seemed like when I was driving around, I was seeing lots of birds that were moving pretty good. So my game plan for this last morning was to just find a good spot, put the decoy out, and just get comfy and just wait it out and just be patient and see what was gonna happen. I think I sat in this spot for probably 2 hours. There was no wind, so I could hear really well. Every 20 or 30 minutes, I would try calling and just throw a call kind of to my left or to my right. I heard a bird gobble to my left, and he was definitely out in the open. So I knew he'd come out of all that thick woods and just came out onto the edge and just gobbled. And he was close. He was probably 150-ish, maybe 100 yards from me. And yeah, it was perfect. These 2 birds came around the corner, and the way I was sitting low, and the cover was this kind of tall grass and sticks. I was trying to ID these 2 birds, and they came into range. The one bird on the left, which I had a better shot at, he went into full strut, and I just was yes, game on. So as soon as he kind of came out of strut, and I just shot him right there. Oh my gosh.
Holy crap. What a season. Like,
Yes. Let's go, dude. Oh my gosh. Holy cow, dude. Pretty decent beard. Wow. I know it's one thing to, spend a weekend and give it your all, but just like grinding and scouting and driving and seeing all these different spots and areas, being around the birds, I mean, it all just kind of led up to this awesome moment.
May 23rd.
It's just, you put in the time and then eventually it happens. So I think we all had a great season, learned a bunch, at least I know I did. Really excited for next season.